This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Max and Mia podcast. I'm Max.
And I'm Mia. So glad you're here with us today. Whether you're listening on your commute, at the gym, or just relaxing at home, we're really happy you tuned in.
All right, before we dive in, we've got a question for you. And we want you to really think about this one.
Imagine someone asks you in English, "How are you feeling?" And not in a small talk kind of way. They actually want to know. You're going through something. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're dealing with some unresolved feelings. Maybe you're just emotionally exhausted.
Could you express that in English? Beyond saying I'm sad or I'm fine or the classic I'm good, thanks. Do you actually have the words to describe what's going on inside?
Because there's a huge gap between knowing basic vocabulary and being able to truly express yourself. And that gap is exactly what we're tackling today.
Today's episode is all about emotions, not the textbook version, not just a list of adjectives. We're talking about real expressions, natural idioms, and some grammar structures that'll help you sound more fluent and more human when you talk about how you feel.
And trust us, once you start using this vocabulary, conversations in English are going to feel very different, more connected, more real.
So if you're ready, let's get into it.
All right, so let's start with something simple. Or at least, it sounds simple. How are you feeling? 3 words. 3 words. But giving a real, honest answer, that's where things get interesting.
So here's what we want you to do. Pause for a second. Don't say, I'm fine. Don't say, I'm tired. Really think about it. How are you actually feeling right now?
To help you with that, Max and I are going to go first. And we're going to do it the way we want you to do it. No basic vocabulary, full honesty.
I'll start. Honestly, today was rough. I woke up already feeling a bit off, like something was weighing on me and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. As the day went on, things just kept piling up. I felt completely drained by the afternoon, not just physically, but emotionally too, like I'd been running on empty for hours. And the worst part is that I couldn't really switch off. Even when things slowed down, my mind just kept going. So right now I'm sitting with a lot of tension, trying to let it go, but not quite getting there yet.
Okay, now me. And I have to say, today was one of those days where everything just clicked. I woke up feeling surprisingly clear-headed, which honestly doesn't happen that often. I had a conversation this morning that left me feeling really uplifted, like someone genuinely saw me and what I was trying to say. And that kind of energy just carried me through the rest of the day. I felt light, present, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. It's hard to put into words, but there was this quiet sense of contentment running through everything I did today.
See the difference? That's what we're going for. And a big part of what made those answers feel natural was the use of idioms. Idioms are powerful because they don't just tell someone how you feel, they show them. They paint a picture.
So, let's look at 6 idioms you can start using right away to describe how you're feeling, especially on the harder days.
Number 1, feeling off. This means you don't feel quite right. Something's wrong, but you can't really explain it.
Like when you say, I don't know, I've just been feeling a bit off all week.
Number 2, weighed down. This one means you're carrying a heavy emotional burden, like something is pressing on you.
For example, She looked weighed down by everything she was dealing with at home. Number 3, running on empty. You've used up all your energy and you have nothing left to give.
Like, by Friday afternoon, I was completely running on empty. I just needed the weekend.
Number 4, can't switch off. This means your brain won't stop even when you want to rest.
For instance, I got into bed at 10, but I just couldn't switch off. My mind was still going. Number 5, on cloud 9. This is for the opposite feeling. Pure happiness, almost like you're floating.
You'd say something like, after getting that phone call, I was on cloud 9 for the rest of the day.
And number 6, in high spirits. This means you're in a great mood, energetic and positive.
As in, everyone was in high spirits at the party. The energy in the room was incredible.
All right, we promised you this wouldn't be boring, and we meant it.
Because we're about to talk about something that, once you get it right, is going to completely change the way you express yourself in English. We're talking about contrast connectors.
Now, you've probably used but 1,000 times. But here's the thing, and yes, pun intended, most learners stop there. They know but, and they leave the other two sitting in a corner collecting dust.
So let's bring them all out. And more importantly, let's show you how to use them correctly, because there are some really common mistakes that even intermediate speakers make with these.
Let's start with but. Simple, direct. And it sits right in the middle of a sentence connecting two contrasting ideas. I wanted to go out, but I was exhausted. That's it. Clean and natural.
However, is a step up in formality, and it works differently. Instead of sitting between two clauses, it usually starts a new sentence or comes after a semicolon. Here's the key thing. You need a comma after it. I wanted to go out. However, I was completely drained. Or even, I wanted to go out. However, I stayed home.
And this is where a lot of people slip up. A very common mistake is writing however like it's but, just dropping it in the middle of a sentence without punctuation. Something like, I wanted to go out, however I was tired. That's incorrect. However needs that pause, that comma to work properly.
Now, although is a different animal entirely. It introduces a subordinate clause, which means it can't stand alone. It needs to connect to a main idea. Although I was exhausted, I decided to go out anyway. Or you can flip it. I decided to go out, although I was exhausted. Both work.
And here's a mistake we hear a lot with although. People mix it up with but and use both in the same sentence. Like, although I was tired, but I went out. That's a double connector. And you only need one. Drop the but. Just say, although I was tired, I went out.
So to put it simply, use but for casual, everyday contrast. Use however when you want to sound more precise or formal. And remember the comma. And use although when you want to set up a contrast at the start of your thought.
Now let's take it up a notch. Because there are 3 more connectors that are going to make you sound noticeably more fluent. And honestly, most intermediate learners don't use them nearly enough.
First one, despite. This one is followed by a noun or a gerund, never a full clause on its own. Despite feeling exhausted, she kept going. Or, despite the bad news, he managed to stay calm. It's powerful because it's compact. A lot of meaning in very few words.
And the mistake people make here is adding of after it. Despite of the rain. That's incorrect. In English, it's just despite the rain. No of ever.
Next up, even though. Think of it as a stronger, more emphatic version of although. You use it when the contrast is surprising or goes against what you'd expect. Even though she'd had a terrible day, she showed up smiling. It carries more emotional weight than although does.
And finally, nevertheless. This one's for when you want to acknowledge something difficult and then push forward anyway. I was running on empty. Nevertheless, I finished everything I'd set out to do. It sounds composed, almost determined. It's the kind of word that makes a sentence land with a bit of weight.
So now you've got a full toolkit. But for everyday contrast, however, for precision and formality. Although and even though for setting up surprising contrasts, with even though carrying a bit more punch, despite when you want to be concise and elegant, and nevertheless when you want to show resilience or determination.
And here's the thing. You're going to hear most of these in action right now.
We've put together a short conversation between two people who've both had a rough day. Same situation, same starting point. But the way they talk about it couldn't be more different. One of them uses everything we've covered today. The idioms, the connectors, the kind of vocabulary that actually makes someone stop and listen. The other one keeps it very, very basic.
And we want you to really pay attention. Not just to the words, but to how each version makes you feel as a listener. Which one pulls you in? Which one feels flat? Because that difference, that's exactly what separates a good English speaker from a great one.
All right, here we go.
Hey Lisa, how are you feeling?
Honestly, I've been a bit all over the place today. It started out fine, but by mid-morning, I just felt this weight settling in, like something was pulling me down and I couldn't really shake it off. Although the morning went smoothly, I couldn't stop thinking about that conversation I had with my manager last week. It's been sitting with me ever since.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm tired too. Work was hard.
Right. Yeah, work can really do that to you. Was it a rough one?
Yeah, very busy. Lots of things to do. I didn't like it.
I know that feeling. Despite having a fairly manageable workload today, I still ended up completely drained by 3 o'clock. It's like, even though the tasks themselves weren't that overwhelming, the mental load of just being on all day, alert, responsive, present, it caught up with me. By the afternoon, I was running on empty and I still had 2 hours left.
Yeah, I was tired too. I wanted to go home, but I couldn't.
Exactly. That's the worst part, isn't it? Being stuck somewhere when your brain has already clocked out. And the thing that got me today, right, was that I had this meeting at 4, and I walked in feeling completely weighed down, like I genuinely had nothing left to give. Nevertheless, I pushed through it, and honestly, it ended up being one of the more energizing parts of my day, which I did not see coming.
Oh, that's good. I had a meeting too. It was okay.
Just okay?
Yeah, normal. People talked. It was fine.
Fair enough. Sometimes fine is all you need. But I think what made mine different was that my colleague, Jamie, actually brought something really thoughtful to the table, a new approach to the project we'd been stuck on for weeks, and it kind of reignited something in me. Like I walked in on empty and walked out in surprisingly high spirits. It's funny how one good idea can shift the whole atmosphere in a room.
Yeah, Jamie is nice.
He really is. So how are you feeling now? Like right now? Not just about work, just in general.
I don't know. A bit sad, I think. And tired. I want to sleep.
I hear you. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes the most honest answer is also the simplest one. But can I ask, is it just today, or has it been building up for a while?
I think a few days, maybe a week. I don't know how to explain it.
You don't have to explain it perfectly. But I'll say this, and I mean it. What you're feeling is valid, even though you might not have the exact words for it yet. Sometimes it's less about finding the right label and more about just sitting with it, not pushing it away.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa.
Of course. And for what it's worth, despite everything, you showed up today. That counts for more than you think.
Maybe.
Definitely. Now go home and sleep, doctor's orders.
Yeah, okay. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Take care of yourself, yeah?
Okay, so what did you notice?
I'll start with Louis because I think it's important to be fair to him. He wasn't wrong. Everything he said was grammatically fine. I'm tired. Work was hard. It was okay. All correct. But here's the thing about correct. It doesn't always mean effective. And in a conversation about something as personal as how you're feeling, it was okay doesn't really invite the other person in, does it?
It keeps the door closed. And what Lisa did, almost instinctively, was keep finding ways to open it back up. Did you catch how she framed her own experience each time Louis gave a short answer? She wasn't showing off. She was modeling. She was showing him, and honestly showing all of us, what it looks like to actually put your emotional experience into words.
And the connectors did a lot of that heavy lifting. There's a moment where she says, despite having a fairly manageable workload, I still ended up completely drained. That despite does something really specific. It tells you the two things don't add up, and that tension is exactly what makes it feel real. It doesn't sound rehearsed. It sounds like someone genuinely trying to make sense of their own day.
Same with nevertheless. She uses it right before she talks about pushing through that 4 o'clock meeting. And it lands, because by that point, you already know she was running on empty. So when she says, nevertheless, I pushed through, there's actual weight behind it. You feel the effort.
Louis, on the other hand, had a moment near the end that I thought was worth pointing out. When Lisa asks him directly, is it just today or has it been building? He says, I think a few days, maybe a week. That's actually more expressive than anything else he said in the conversation. A little vulnerability, a little uncertainty, and suddenly he's more present than he's been the whole time.
Which tells you something. It's not always about vocabulary. Sometimes it's about being willing to go a little deeper. The words follow when you give yourself permission to actually say something.
But the words do help. And that's exactly what we want to talk about next.
All right, this one's quick, but it's useful. We're going to give you some direct swaps. Words you already know, and what you can say instead to sound more natural, more expressive, more you.
And just to be clear, we're not telling you to throw out the basics. Happy, sad, tired, they all work. But if you want more range, more color in how you express yourself, here are some options worth having in your pocket.
Instead of happy, try content, which is quieter, more settled, or elated if it's something bigger, more intense, or even relieved, which is its own kind of happy that comes after tension.
Instead of sad, you could say down, which is casual and natural. Deflated if something specific took the wind out of you. Or heartbroken when it's deeper than just a bad day.
Instead of tired, there's drained, which we heard Lisa use, and it carries more emotional weight than physical. Burnt out if it's been going on for a while. Or worn out, which is somewhere in between.
Instead of angry, try frustrated, which is softer but still real. Resentful if it's something that's been building. Or livid if you really want to convey that you've hit a limit.
And instead of nervous, you could say on edge, which is more conversational. Uneasy if it's more of a low-level discomfort. or apprehensive if you're dreading something specific that's coming.
Now, will you use all of these? Probably not right away. And that's completely fine. But even if you just recognize them when someone else uses them, that's already a win. Understanding is the first step. Using them naturally comes with time.
Okay, one more thing before we wrap up. And this one's small, but it makes a big difference.
We've talked about what words to use. But there's another layer to this that most learners overlook completely. And that's how much. Because in English, the word you choose to intensify or soften an emotion can completely change what you're communicating.
Think about it. I'm a bit down and I'm absolutely devastated are technically describing the same emotion, but they're not even close to the same thing.
So let's talk about intensifiers. These are the words that sit in front of your adjective and tell the other person how far up or down the dial actually is.
On the stronger end, you've got absolutely, but on completely, utterly, and deeply. These are for when you mean it, fully. I'm absolutely exhausted. She was utterly heartbroken. He felt deeply unsettled by the whole thing. No half measures.
Then there's the middle ground. Pretty, fairly, quite, and rather. These soften things just enough to sound measured without being dismissive. I'm pretty drained today. She seemed fairly uneasy about it. Very natural, very conversational.
Now, we need to pause on two of those for a second because they can trip you up if you're not careful.
Let's start with rather. As an intensifier, it works perfectly fine. I'm rather frustrated. She seemed rather apprehensive. But rather has another life entirely, and that's as a preference marker. I'd rather stay home tonight. Would you rather talk about it later? In that context, it has nothing to do with intensity. It means you prefer one thing over another. So if someone says, I'd rather not talk about it, they're not telling you how much they don't want to talk. They're telling you they prefer not to. Completely different function.
And then there's quite. This one's actually a little more complicated because it behaves differently depending on which side of the Atlantic you're on. In American English, quite usually means very. I'm quite upset about it means you're really upset. But in British English, quite can actually soften things. I'm quite tired might just mean I'm somewhat tired. So if you're watching a British series or talking to someone from the UK and they say, "That was quite good," don't read it as high praise. It might just mean decent.
The takeaway: rather and quite are both useful, but pay attention to context. Is rather intensifying an adjective, or is it sitting next to would? Is quite coming from an American or a British speaker? Those details change everything.
And on the lighter end, a bit, slightly, and somewhat. These are useful when you want to name something without making it the center of the conversation. I'm a bit on edge today. He seemed slightly apprehensive. It acknowledges the feeling without amplifying it.
Now here's the tip we really want you to take away from this. Native speakers don't just choose the right emotion word. They calibrate. They decide how much of that emotion they want to put on the table, and they use intensifiers to control exactly that. It's one of those small things that, once you start doing it consciously, people will notice. Not because it sounds fancy, but because it sounds precise. And precise sounds fluent.
Try it this week. Pick one emotion you feel at some point, any emotion, And before you default to very, ask yourself, does this actually call for utterly? Or is it more of a fairly? That tiny pause is where your English starts to grow.
All right, and that brings us to the end of today's episode. But before we go, we want to ask you something, and we genuinely mean this.
Go use one thing from today, just one. Whether it's an idiom, a connector, a vocabulary swap, or an intensifier. Find one moment this week, in a conversation, in a message, in your journal, wherever, and use it. Don't wait until you feel ready, because that moment rarely comes on its own.
Language grows in the small decisions. The moment you choose drained instead of tired. The moment you say despite that instead of but. Those aren't big leaps. They're small steps that add up faster than you'd think.
And if no one's told you this lately, the fact that you're here, listening, learning, choosing to grow in a second language, that takes something. It takes patience. It takes courage. And honestly, it takes a kind of quiet determination that most people don't give themselves enough credit for.
So give yourself some credit. You're doing the work.
We'll be back next time with a brand new episode. Until then, take care of yourselves.
And keep going. We'll see you soon.